What's up, guys? Welcome back to Justin Joy. Banyan here. Today I'm joined with the world-famous Nigel Alexander Dean. We are down here at Phaser Control Studios down in San Diego. A little bit of a switch up here. Go ahead and tell the people who you are, what you do. We'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, of course. Sounds like my name's been given, but I'm a local producer here in San Diego, as well as an engineer. And I specialize mostly in mixing, a lot of mastering lately, and then a lot of, music production.
Sweet.
So I kind of have my toes in all fields. And been doing it for about, I think, 7 years now.
Okay. Cool.
And I would argue probably 5 of those professionally.
Yeah.
The first 2 just kind of,
learning,
honing my skills, developing my signature as an artist as well as an engineer. And yeah, man, I've been at Phaser Control since day one. Sweet. In terms of my engineering and production career. Mm-hmm. And they've been really great to me. And awesome. So I've just kept my time here and
sweet.
Yeah.
So growing up, mm-hmm. were you always doing music growing up, or did it hit a point where like you just started, or how did that work out?
Yeah, so I started like anyone, honestly. If you go into the public school system, mm-hmm. you do like I don't know about you, but for me, like my first introduction to playing an instrument was the recorder. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was like 4th grade or something like that.
Okay.
And then that didn't really spark my interest immediately. I was like, I don't know how it could.
Yeah.
But I remember that kind of vividly as my first introduction to music and mm-hmm. like playing instruments. And I thought it was cool, but I didn't,
it's
gung-ho about it.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever. And mm-hmm. then 5th grade came along, and you had a choice between band and orchestra. Mm-hmm. And I went to orchestra. I started playing violin, and actually stuck with the violin until 8th grade. So I played 4 years. And I would say that was probably like my slow blossoming into realizing that music was what I wanted to do long term. I wouldn't say at that point, when I first started doing orchestra, that I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is my life. This is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Definitely not there. And of course, I was in 5th grade, so who really knows?
Yeah, I know. Right?
At that time, I was like, I want to be a doctor,
Yeah.
Make my grandma proud.
For sure.
But then, honestly, when it really hit me was 6th grade, I got my first guitar.
Okay.
And around 6th grade, too, was when I was getting really into, like, rock and roll mm-hmm. and all that kind of stuff. And so that combination of my new music taste with actually getting an instrument that could where I could be emulating some of my idols was huge for me. And then my parents were really, I was really privileged to have parents that invested in it. Mm-hmm. And so they got me a guitar teacher. And that guy really, I think if I have to dedicate one thing to like me choosing music as a career path, it was my guitar teacher.
Okay.
I mean, he was one of my best friends, honestly, for a long time. I mean, I had him in 6th grade all the way up until like sophomore year of college.
Wow.
Before I left for San Diego. Dang. I mean, we were together a long time. And he really just gave me everything that I needed to like believe in myself that this was the right decision.
Cool. So you're originally from Idaho, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
You were born there. You lived there for about...
I lived there for pretty much most of my life.
Okay.
I was born in the small town of Pocatello, Idaho.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, for good reason. It's nothing.
Okay.
It's like, I don't even know what the population is, but it's not worth even trying to figure out.
For sure.
And
mm-hmm.
So I was born there. I don't really remember much of my time there. So most of my life was spent in Boise, Idaho, which is the capital city. And from the young time that I can remember till my sophomore year of college was my time in Idaho. And then I moved here, finished my education in music production, and then have been in San Diego ever since.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. So... just a little back history here. So Nigel was actually my mentor when I went through a schooling program as well. I did it all in here. Mm-hmm. Took about a year and a half, somewhere around there, 2 years.
Yeah, it was about a year and a little over a year.
Somewhere around there. And so, I just kind of figured it'd be kind of like a cool full circle moment to do this interview where I met Nigel. So from there, so what have you been up to right now? What's you said your main focus has been mixing, and
I'm gonna answer that question, but before I get there, I just want your viewers to know, like, from when I met you to where you are now, it's insane to see how far you've come.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate
and like
it.
No, totally, dude, and you deserve it, because I've had a lot of what would you say, like interns and like apprentices.
Yeah.
And some of them have been honestly like great musicians and really ambitious, but I haven't seen anyone like just put in the dedication like you have, and so it's really cool to see. And like when I first met you, I told you that's what it's going to take to get to where you want to be. And so the fact that you've stuck with it and continue to do it, and like, now we're doing a podcast in the studio, like doing a full circle moment, like you said, it's really cool. Yeah,
appreciate
really
it, man.
Privileged to be here.
Means a lot. Yeah, and that means a lot coming from you, because like I said, I'm still learning stuff from you to this day. I come in, I'll book a session, I'll come down here and he'll be hanging out, and I'll be doing something like, don't do that. I'm like, okay, so it means a lot, man. I appreciate it. So coming from there, what are some of you said your main focus right now is kind of mixing, mastering.
So the question you asked me before. So right now, January has been a good start to the year. Lately, when I would say like 3-4 years ago, my main source of income was mixing.
Okay.
And lately, last year and a half, I want to say, maybe a year, so it's pretty recent, I've been getting a lot of mastering.
Wow, okay.
Requests and quotes and stuff like that. And so I guess I've just developed like a reputation,
okay,
for mastering recently. So a lot of my stuff that I'm doing right now is mastering based. Like I was telling you before we started this podcast, I got like one guy that's got like 35 to 37 songs that need to be mastered. It's mad. It's mental.
Yeah, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, and like he has like a whole plan for it. Like he wants to do like 10 at a time, and
wow,
like it's cool. So I got that. That's a big project on my plate right now.
Okay.
And then I got the hip hop stuff that you and I have been working on with Riston.
Yes. So coming very soon.
Yeah, coming very soon. Yeah. So that'll be cool to have be able to put that out in the world and see what's happening. Can't talk. What's happening with him. And then a couple other mixing projects right now.
Sweet.
For some local people. And then that's about it right now.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
A lot of mastering work.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess sometimes it just happens like that. You just kind of fall in, and whatever just starts working. I guess you just got to run with it.
Totally. I told you too. Like when you were first starting off, I'm a firm believer in diversifying.
That's where I learned it from. This man right here.
Yeah, totally. Because if you're solely a mixing engineer, that's great. But then you have to develop I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. Yeah. I guess for me, I wanted to be the best at everything. Mm-hmm. And by best, I mean as good as I can be.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, having the ability to be able to produce or be able to mix or be able to master has opened up my clientele so much.
Yep.
Like my range of clientele is a lot more vast than if I had stuck with my guns on just mixing or just producing, So I always tell any of my close friends or apprentices, like even if you're not in the music industry, like diversify, like there are so many, you have so many skills that you probably don't know about that if you just like had taken the time to kind of figure out what they were and then how to apply them to your life, you can actually, help yourself out in a lot of ways, both financially as well as like spiritually and all that kind of good stuff.
For sure. Yeah, so, I was talking about that with Riston in the first, and a little bit with Romy too on the last episode. We were just saying how some people, they get so caught up in whatever they're doing, and they have all these people knocking on their door like, hey, do this, do that. Like, no, and they're putting down opportunities, and then a year from now they wonder, oh, why aren't I, why haven't I done anything, and why but
100%.
People aren't seeing that,
Well, and for someone like me, who's more behind the scenes kind of person.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, I'm sure like a lot of novice engineers probably don't think about it this way, but I would recommend they do, is that your signature is on everything that you put on, right?
Yeah.
So if you're working with someone who really is not that good and you mix their track, your signature is on that at the ultimately at the end of the day. And like, you know, it's well known in the mixing and music production world that you can polish a turd, it's still gonna be a turd. You know, so like you can send me a mix that just got recorded very poorly. You know, and expect me to make it into like a clean, super warm, super fat, you know, sonic source. You're out of your mind. I know. You know what I mean? And so being able to diversify also lets me be a little bit more selective in who I work with. Right? Because if I'm just working on mixing, I got to take what I can get to pay my bills. You know? And we're in San Diego, California. Like, it's not cheap to live here. And so being able to diversify allows me to be also a little bit more selective in who I get to work with, because then I can also be a little bit more proud where my signature goes to, you know? Because at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table. You know? And so sometimes you have to sacrifice your name in order to survive in a lot of ways. So that's another reason why I think it's really good too. You know,
I totally agree, because there's things that I was doing originally that I was so set, you know, there was a point where I was so set on just only hip hop, and like that's all I was doing. And then, you know, I always loved EDM, of course, but you know, I just didn't really see it. And then, you know, I got some opportunities with that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll give it a try. And then what's funny is when I started doing the EDM thing, that's when Riston came to me for that one album when we got the San Diego Music Award for. So I was like, I sometimes feel like if you kind of put one thing to rest and work on another, it'll grow, you know,
sometimes,
and then it's just like a bounce back effect where you do one thing here, one thing there, and you're just, you know, and you're always busy. And
I mean, it's a down goes to planting a seed and watching it grow, you know? Like, so long as you're nurturing it appropriately, it'll grow. Right? If you neglect it, it's going to die. It's not going to go anywhere. But if you put too much or you overwater it, it's going to, you know what I mean? Like, And that's, you know, I think moderation is key in a lot of ways. And people kind of forget that. They do get so zoomed in on one thing. They neglect so many other aspects that contribute to what they're going for, right? They're just focused on like one narrow piece of the puzzle when there's like so many other key pieces you got to put together to make the whole image. So,
I learned that over the last couple months with like just social media, for example, just on a small scale, you know, but just putting so much effort, and it was like it got to the point where it just oversaturated, I feel like, and I was like, well, this makes no sense, because everything you read about the algorithm and this, you know, you think that by going to town every day on this stuff, like, you know, you're gonna force the plant to grow.
Right. And that's what I mean. You know, like, because, and also you've been sold that by a lot of these fucking influencer people. Like, oh, you gotta fuck every day. You gotta blah 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 blah. I was like, no, it's not. I mean, that's partially it. Like, personally, I mean, people might disagree with this. It's up to you guys. But for me, it's like these influencers tell you like you gotta put out every day, you gotta be like on the move, and like to a degree that does help. But some of these people, like, you know, you're fucking interesting. You're really sexy. Right. Like there's a reason why people keep coming to you. Right. And I highly doubt like 90% of it is because of how much content you're putting out on a regular basis. Highly doubt it. You know, your content just has to be unique and interesting. You know? And so like that's why I know people who have ridiculous followings that post like once a month. You know what I mean?
Well, and then when they post, it's like, oh my God, they posted. Ring the bell. You know?
Exactly, man. And so, you know, like, I don't know. I don't really buy much into that. Fucking.
Well, it definitely reaches that point where you start alienating your own audience because, you know, they start getting sick. Like, oh my God, this guy again, you know?
Exactly. Like, there's a balancing procedure there, you know? And I think a lot of people neglect that. And then on top of that, man, like, you know, you're an artist, your goal should be your art. That's what's going to bring people to your you know, socials.
Definitely.
And I think a lot of people think that they need to get their socials up in order for their music to get heard. And I just don't. I think that's a myopic way of looking at it. I really do. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
For sure, I think pushing
artists.
I think pushing your playlist, you know, getting on a playlist, getting on like a label that
those
offers
things.
like that. That's what's really, because I've been kind of studying with my manager like these artists that just kind of come out of nowhere, and like, you know, even now they'll have a song with 100,000 plays on it, and they got, you know, 1,500 followers, and it's like, okay, well, you know, in your head you go, oh, wait a minute, no, that can't be right, you know, but they're, you know, they're killing it. Their music's getting heard. They're getting played at festivals, but their social isn't there. I think I think just as a whole, everybody puts way too much emphasis on just the social media, just because it's
right. And again, I think that why that is because select people got famous that way, and so they think that's the way to do
viral,
it. Right? And you gotta think in the music industry, like a good example is like Marcus Riboulet. Like he got famous from YouTube.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think probably like, oh my God, I gotta be the YouTube, and like you can, but you have to be unique. Yeah. Like Mark Riboulet has like a unique brand, I hate to say, because I mean he's usually only in his underwear. Yeah. Or he's wearing some fucking bathrobe, right? So he's got his image. And then he's really fucking talented, you know, and he does like a really cool show. Same with Tosh Sultana. That's how she got famous, right? YouTube, putting YouTube videos of her playing every single instrument. Yep. So like these people are the ones that, they definitely took social media to their advantage. And you still can do that too. Yeah. But don't just think that's content pushing that's going to get you what you want. Yeah. Like it's got to be quality content, And so I would recommend to people to spend more time on quality content development than just content development. Yeah, just pushing shit all the fucking time, because like you said, people are going to get annoyed after a while, especially if it's shit content. It's why am I following this guy? What value does he add to me or her? What value does she add to me? Yep. It's things that people don't really think about, right? I mean, I would argue that a lot of music industry errors are just not long-term strategic thinking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah. I mean, the social thing, I mean, even as a creator, constantly making yourself push, and it sounds pathetic to sit there and go, oh, I get burnout or whatever, but it's like, if you're every day only thinking about, oh my God, what am I going to post today? What am I going to, like, you get to this point where it's like, dude, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, and then that's how people, they just kind of vanish, because they just, and then they'll come back in 3 months and they'll do the same thing because this is the time I'm going to do it, and so I agree, you got to bring some kind of value to the table and show people that,
I mean, that is essentially what it is, right? It's like you have to bring value to the people that are listening to your music in this case, right? Yep. Then that's all. I mean, that's essentially economics, right? If you're not providing any value to your customer or your listener or your member or whatever industry you're in. Yep.
It's like, what use are you?
Yeah, you're gonna go bankrupt soon, and you're not gonna have a business. You know? So, I think people would do well to remember that your first thing is value. And with music in particular, that's why it's such a tough industry to succeed in. Yeah. Is because the value you make for your audience touches them emotionally. Oh yeah. Yep. Most of the time, right? Even if it's like, I mean, I don't have a lot of nice words to say about modern day mumble rap. Yeah. But even that touches certain people emotionally. Oh, yeah. Like they're at a club, they're at a party with people, in college, and
hits
them
at the right time.
Hits them at the right time. It gets them in the right mood. I mean, that's when you see people shouting at the top of their lungs, screaming the lyrics of the song.
Yeah, you're just like,
that's the value it adds at that moment, is like it's making everyone at the party super fucking hyped. Yep. And so, or it's like a really emotional song and it really touches someone. It reminds them of like their dead mother or something. Yeah. Like, I mean, as dark as that is, that still adds value to people. Oh yeah. And so that's a tough, tricky thing with music. Or art in general, is like you got to add value to that person, and value is, in our regard, in music, is a subjective thing. So that's why it's tough, because like you got to have like you have to be on the same wavelength as the majority of people. Yeah.
Well, and that's why you got to connect the proper way to whoever you're listening to, and back to the social media. If you're just pushing out content just for the sake of social media, you might be attracting the wrong people. Right. So you got a lot of followers, but they're not, they only like that one video that you posted, and then you try and make a song or something, and then they're like, who the heck is this guy? Like, they don't even remember why they followed you, or, it's, man, it's tough, but, and, even back to the beginning when I first started coming here and, seeing you, I mean, you're always doing something. You had work, and I remember I would go on your Instagram, I'd be like, he's not posting anything. How's he having all, like, and then I started learning over time, like, oh, it's because he's actually making real connections with people. And, you want to like
that's
elaborate?
Point. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I get that a lot from like, if I take on a new apprentice, their thing is like, dude, you don't really post all that much. Like, how do you get work? And like,
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
And,
Yeah.
I found like I get a little bit of work off of like, say Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Like every now and then I'll make a little post saying like,
Yeah.
like of something I'm working on in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, hey, if you need, mastering or whatever. And I try to make it fun, right? Like, like if you want the next
not just an ad,
Yeah, it's like if you want the next big thing to hit your, your ears since the invention of the telephone.
Yeah.
DM me.
Genius, yeah.
But most of the time, I don't really bother, and I'll get a little bit of work from that. But
Okay.
I mean, it's not even talking like we're not even hitting 5% of my income comes from anything from social media.
Wow.
I mean, and the other thing too is like there's if you're an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Or a producer, or even like a hiring session artist.
Mm-hmm.
There's what is it called? Sound Better. Have you heard of Sound Better?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I started with that a little bit, and I got a little bit of work off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so avenues like tools like that, I found were pretty good because you
Yeah.
can actually make some connections with people that are actually really well established in the industry.
Okay.
But for the most part, like Instagram, Facebook, like like. I used to have a Facebook business profile, and I used to have, I used to put a lot more time into like my Google business profile and my Instagram profile. And what I found was it wasn't worth the time.
Yeah.
And I found what was better was what we were just talking about, which is like I'll just go out to my local scene.
Yep.
Which is something I do anyways, right? So it's like it wasn't like it was a chore.
Yeah.
But I would just go out to my local scene and be talking to people and just introducing myself.
It's still the
know,
best
like,
thing
what are you
to do.
doing? I'm like, oh, I do this, and be like, oh shit, like.
Yep.
And I'd just meet artists, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm working on an album right now with my band. I'll be like, oh great, where you recording it? Where you gonna get it mixed? Who's gonna master it? And they're like, oh, we're talking about doing it this way, blah blah blah. And I was like, how much are they gonna charge?
Yeah.
They're gonna charge this. Oh well, I'll do it better.
Yeah.
And then you just show them like, oh, this is where I work.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's where the Instagram part does kind of come in handy because you can be like, hey, follow me on Instagram. They can see like where I'm at, and what I do, and that's kind of the deal breaker, right? So it's like any traditional sales type job where you just like door to door kind of thing.
Yeah.
Except I'm going to bars and clubs.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm going to like concerts and
Yeah.
finding circles. And then, that was initially. Nowadays, like, it just comes to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've developed a reputation where people just pass along my phone number and they hit me up. And I have returning customers.
That's
I have
good.
returning clients who will just share my name wherever
Yeah.
they can. And it's and that's personally the way I like to do it. And I think it's the best way.
Yeah.
Because it just, you develop a loyal clientele base. And that's, I think, especially in today's world, where recording studios are kind of becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
I mean, we can probably talk about this too.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely believe that recording studios are going to be not a thing in like 20 years.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing the
the
kind of progression. I got off the phone with a guy the other day, and he was, just a musician that I know from playing with One Hot Planet, and he was kind of asking me, oh hey, we'll be able to record a album, blah blah blah, and I was just kind of letting him know, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really doing too much of that anymore, but just because I know you maybe. And then he's like, okay, well let me talk with the band, but they're kind of just wanting to buy it and do it themselves. And
and that's the thing, man, is like they can, and they could get it probably pretty, depending on how, if they were smart with it and they strategized in terms of like how they pick their rooms that they're going to record in, then they could totally do it on their own and get a really decent sounding, like these days it's better, I would argue. I don't know, actually. I would say for most people, since they don't have the technical skills with mixing, and you need like a properly treated room and all this stuff, you're probably better off recording things yourself and saving the money to send to a mixing engineer. I think a lot of people do that. I actually do know a lot of people do that. Like I've actually done a lot of projects where people just record it at their house, and they actually have ended up getting really decent sounding recording. Like it's not optimal, in my opinion, but it's still good enough where it's works, like I can make it work. And it's not, they're not sending me a turd to polish. They're sending me like
it's crazy,
based on what they have, a really decent sounding recording of a song. And so I think nowadays a lot of people are taking that route, and I know a lot, even in the EDM world, I know a lot of people that will produce their own beats and save the money for the mixing process and the mastering process. Just because, like, that's something that, luckily to my advantage, because I would still like to have a job. That a lot of people still don't have the technical skills yet to know how a lot of these
that's what I was gonna
things
say.
work. Yeah. But in terms of recording studios, man, like I mean, there's really, it's getting to the point where there's really no need for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most of my stuff with like One Hot Plan and everything, we've done
exactly
in the living room.
Yeah.
And it sounds all
great,
right, you know.
Yeah, you know. And then you guys will, like I think you've done a couple songs in here. Where you exactly. You're a perfect case in point of this. Is like you recorded it on your own, and then you come in here and you mix it.
Yep.
And then it sounds great.
Yep.
You know, and it's something to be proud of. And so like I think. I mean, you're already seeing it too a lot, and especially in San Diego. Like the pandemic really shut down quite a handful of studios, and so there's only a handful of us left here in San Diego.
It's crazy.
And I don't even know how much longer. I mean, I already know some of those studios are trying to diversify into other aspects where they can generate more income because they see the writing down the wall, right? Yeah, you've seen that. I mean, I know a bunch.
A lot of rehearsal spaces now. There's a lot of like live streaming spaces.
Yeah, and a lot of people are trying to do education stuff now.
Yeah, yep.
And
saw that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the rehearsal. I mean, like that is one thing about Phaser. For y'all that don't know, that is really actually a great business model because Phaser is the studio that we're in right now, but outside of this room are, I forget how many we have. I want to say like 12 rehearsal spaces. Yeah. 12 to 15 rehearsal spaces. And those are what pays the rent. Yeah. So then we get to be more selective too. And this is diversification, helps you kind of stay afloat. It's another good example.
Full circle, yeah.
Yeah. Is because we don't have to worry about paying our rent bills every month here, right? By just taking in whoever we can to, come record and whatever, and then offering really cheap deals. The rehearsal space is paid for the rent, and then we can be more selective in then who we bring in here. Right? Yeah, yeah. And so again, then our signature isn't getting sacrificed in order to survive. Yeah. And so again, like, moral of the story: diversification. Yeah. But anyways, back to the studio situation, that like what would we call it, like Studio Armageddon coming up, like Ragnarok of the studios.
Oh man, sounds scary.
I know, right? Yeah.
We're all dead.
No, but for real, on a real note, I really do think you're gonna see a lot of studios either becoming really innovative and developing like we said, education, rehearsal spaces, other avenues of income in order to stay around, or they just have such a big name, like they've been around since the very beginning, they have some of the biggest names, like that would be the only way I could see like a legit studio staying just as a studio. But even some of the ones here in San Diego that I know have taken such big, I mean, we've taken a lot of big names too, and then there's another studio here, I won't say their name because I don't know if they want me to say anything, but like they are a huge studio. They've had a lot of great artists, a lot of A-list artists, and even they have to diversify into like the education realm and stuff like that. Wow. Yeah. And so, and a lot of people might ask why that is, and it really boils down to the fact that technology in our field is now so cheap to acquire. Oh yeah. Because back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I mean, like,
not accessible.
It's not accessible. I mean, no way.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh no,
like,
yeah.
No way. I mean, like a lot of these microphones are $10,000, $5,000. You know, the mixing consoles were $300,000. Like the power bill alone to power everything that you needed was
insane.
Stupid. You know, you had like literally back in the day, old studios that had like a whole power room that had to stay on continuously. Yeah. And so like nowadays, like Phaser is kind of a good example of like where it's heading. Yeah. In terms of like what the studio, because like you'll notice, like I'm sure they can maybe see in the video, like we don't have a giant mixing console, right? A lot of this is done in the box, and we have analog gear, but we have analog gear that we have determined is exceptional. Right, and that we just can't live without. Where everything else is done in the box, and we get really great results in the box because now technology, the algorithms are so complex that you really, if you were to compare an analog emulation of the 1176 with the 1176 we have right here, you're probably not going to notice. Oh yeah, unless you're like a super trained individual, and even some of those people, I don't even know if they're being honest.
But I mean, for the average listener, they don't know
exactly. Like the average individual is not going to fucking know the difference at all.
Exactly.
And so that's the point, is like you could have this in your house.
Oh yeah.
You know, I
yeah.
mean, like this is a little bit more of an expensive setup, but if you dumb this down a little bit, I mean, like kind of like your home studio setup or my home studio setup, it's like, it's really not expensive at all if you really think about it. You know, get a nice paying, you know, not a nice paying job. Sorry, get a minimum wage job.
Yep.
Work 30 hours a week. You could like within a couple months, you can afford the essentials that you're gonna need to do
computer, small interface.
Yeah.
Some headphones. I mean, you don't even need speakers anymore if you really don't want it.
No, I mean, if you're just an EDM guy, then or a rap guy, then that's really all you need.
Yep.
And then, of course, the biggest obstacle for people is the room treatment.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't even think most people think about that.
No,
I didn't. That's for sure. Like,
that's been my biggest obstacle in my. I'm just having to make it work right now, you know. But I've kind of trained myself to be more headphone, and I'll take it off, and I'm like, okay, you know, I put back on the headphones. I'll just kind of bounce back and forth. But
totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's that. Yeah, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about, you know, kind of what I'm doing with the home studio thing. You know, I'm just trying to bring, you know, just kind of make that kind of the center now, and people are more inclined to work because they're just, you know, I think a lot of people paint studio stuff like, oh, it's crazy expensive, and which it really isn't when you look at the kind of, you know, if you look at the hourly rate and everything. Like, if you want to use the space, I mean, it's not too bad compared to what some, because I remember in the past with One Hot Planet, you know, we were looking at things and we want to do a 3-song EP, and this is why we ended up just doing it ourselves and figure it out. But they said it was gonna be like $3,000. I'm like, bro, we're not even gonna make $20 off this.
And
you know, it's just
that is exactly my point. Is like, you know, here at Phaser, well, I mean, full disclosure, you get a better deal than most people.
Yeah. True. Like, I did my internship here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hooked Banyan up.
Yeah.
But yeah, most studio, it just depends on the studio, right? And who is the, you know, like if they're a big name engineer there, they're gonna charge more. It's just how it is.
For sure.
Or if they're a big name studio, they're gonna charge more. But yeah, and Phaser's been really good about being pretty welcoming to the working man and woman. And we definitely pride ourselves on that because, you know, it is hard, you know. Like, especially if you're still in a band, like a lot of EDM guys and like hip hop guys, you know, you could do it all on your, like, even mixing and stuff. Like, you could really do it on your own if you just have a really well-trained ear. And you know how to kind of maneuver around whatever room you're doing everything in. But if you're in a band, like, you kind of want to do it in a recording studio, you know, because some people too, it's like, this is what we've been working for, you know. When we first got into a band, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to be in the studio with the microphones, with the wires everywhere.
It's an achievement.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly, man. It's like a rite of passage in a lot of ways.
Like, we're actually doing this.
And so like we've really tried to, you know, keep Phaser one of those welcoming areas where like, you know, like people who, you know, got to pay the bills, got to fucking, you know, but they still want to hit that milestone. We're trying to, you know, be the people that that help them reach that. And this is a fucking phenomenal studio to record in. I mean, it's really well built. And then I don't know, maybe you could take your camera and kind of do a walkthrough through video, and so people can see just how it's you know, architected is really artistic and really a sight to see. I mean, that's one of the cool things about here. I mean, there's no 90-degree corners in this whole place. All the ceilings. I mean, the room we're in right now, if the people can see above us, like, it's a diagonal ceiling.
Just
and you could
amplifies everything in like a really good way.
You know, you clap. There's no echo. I mean, it's just so airtight, and you just get some of the best sounds in the studio. And so we're, you know, Phaser's been pretty lucky. We got on a tangent, and that was the main point I was trying to drive to about that.
Well, I was gonna say that you know, with like the high price thing with a lot of things,
right?
Back to diversification. That's their only source. So they're sitting there going, "Oh my God, we got a client. We got to pay the bill with this one guy." You know, and I mean, you know, some average, you know, just starting out guitarist coming in isn't going to drop a couple $1,000s on it. He's sitting there going, he's like, whoa, wait a minute, you know. And so, you know, studio probably didn't diversify itself enough to have, you know, they got their high ticket people that come in because, you know, they offer quality work or whatever. But then, you know, they got other forms that are like actually paid, you know, just like you were saying, how you have the rehearsal rooms and and you know, so then you're able to be, hey man, you know, you know, you can even turn down people if you just, you know, not because they're not good, but you go, you know, hey, I think, you know, your budget might be better for this as opposed to.
For sure. Full disclosure, I do turn people down for not being good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That is definitely a thing people do. I won't
Yep.
sugarcoat it. If you suck, you suck.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put my name on it.
Oh yeah.
You know.
No, I mean I
and-
don't blame you. I
Yeah.
mean it's
And I think people, some people get a little. I've told some of my friends who aren't in the industry about
Yeah.
that, and like they get all like, "Oh my god, that's so mean."
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah.
It's like, dude, come on, like,
I know.
like,
Yep.
this is my life, this is my career. Like,
Yep.
I
Yeah,
don't want to
I'm
be
not
associated with
sacrificing it.
something that may, like, people may listen to it and be like,
Like, what the heck is that?
like
Yeah.
he was part of that. No,
Uh-huh.
I'm not willing to risk it. So
Yep.
if that means that I'm a mean guy, so fucking be it.
So
you know,
be it.
That's
It's
the
your,
way
it's
it
your
is.
reputation. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah.
protect it. You know,
Totally.
I've had those conflicts, over the years where it's just, somebody will hit me up to work with me, and then,
Mhm.
I kind of let them know what okay, hey, here's how I do things. But oh yeah, cool. And then like the next message through, they're like, telling me okay, so I want you to do this, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be doing this, and we're gonna be working with this guy. But I'm like, whoa, hold on, man. Like,
Mhm.
you make good stuff, dude, but
Right.
it's like you're coming to contract me, and then all of a sudden you're saying that like all these other people are doing something, and now so my name is on this guy's work,
Right.
but he mixed it and he did this and he
At some
did that,
point,
and I'm
yeah.
just kind of like, when they originally came in, it's like, well, I expected that if you were hitting me up for a project that you would be like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm hitting him up for a project, and then we'll collaborate with other people and whatnot. But I mean,
Mhm.
man, I've had people just come in and they're just the director of the show and they're doing that. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean, especially too, like, it's a little unprofessional if they're not telling you that other people are going to be involved.
Yep.
Like,
Uh-huh.
you should be informed of that before you even say yes.
For
like,
sure.
Like, they approach you and be like, hey, this is what we're asking you to do, but
Yep.
this is also going to be on the project.
Yep.
And then you can do a little bit of research before you
Mhm.
agree on, is this going to be
Yeah.
suitable?
Mm-hmm.
And are we going to synchronize, right? Like, are we going to be able to collaborate in a
Yep.
way that, doesn't sacrifice my reputation?
Yep.
Doesn't sacrifice theirs?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not a good match, then you got to be able to say no. And like, so that's a little. I find that pretty unprofessional if someone just comes
Yeah.
up and doesn't even inform me. I
It's
mean, that's
happened a couple times.
yeah, and that's a
it's-
good way to And the other thing about the industry too is we all talk. So
Oh yeah.
like,
Yep.
I got people who tell me don't work with this fucking guy.
Yep.
And I do
Mhm.
the same. So like, if you really want to take that risk and
Yeah.
be that kind of person who wants to get their
know.
like fucking ego in the way.
Yep.
Well,
Well, I think that's
you're
one of the
detriment.
things. It's
Yeah.
the ego, man.
It is the ego. Yeah.
They're all. A lot of people are just kind of like the guy of whatever friend group they're in,
Right,
and
right.
and so externally, it projects. I don't know if that's from like insecurities that they may have or whatever, but it's like, I'll just be talking to people and they start getting. And I'm like, oh, dude, like relax, man. Like we're,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
just chilling. I'm trying to
Yeah.
help. It's not
Yeah.
like, I mean. I think with this last album that is coming with Riston,
Mm-hmm.
which should be coming probably early February or somewhere like there.
Mid-February.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But
Mhm.
like I said, I let you know. I'm like, hey, we're doing this album.
Mhm.
You show me those beats prior. I'm like,
Yeah.
send them the stuff.
Yeah,
Whatever. And then even at the end, when we were mixing and trying to figure out the date, I'm like, hey, do you want me to mix it? And you're just like, oh, no, I'd rather do it. I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like,
Yeah.
not, oh, you're in my thing now. And, it's just, I feel like people just get like, it's just too
Yeah.
much sometimes. And I really, this last year, I have been very selective
Yeah.
with who I'm associated. I'm just
You
like,
should be, honestly.
yeah,
mean-
and it's just, it's crazy.
You gotta choose your battles. I mean, maybe there's a situation where you gotta kind of bite the bullet.
Yeah.
Because honestly, some people who are really well known are kind of egomaniacs
Yeah,
and huge
yeah.
narcissists, but
Mhm.
honestly could help advance your career. I mean,
Yep.
that's the Machiavellian part about
Yeah.
life, essentially.
Yep.
I mean, you're gonna find this in the industry, but particularly in the
Got the mean boss.
music and
Yep.
like music and like the Hollywood industry in general.
Yep.
It's cutthroat as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
And
Mhm.
like that's the other thing I told you too when you first started. I was like, yo, man, like as long as you're ambitious, you're willing to work hard, you're willing to put in the time,
Yeah.
and also you're willing to deal with the
Roll
cutthroat
with the
attitude,
punches, yeah.
of all the fucking people in this industry, because they
Yeah.
are cutthroat. They will bury you to be ahead of you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it's good to be selective too, because
Yep.
like if you're not good at figuring that out, like determining characters that are manipulating you and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Man, it's gonna suck down the road. Especially too if you're an artist, and labels are notorious for this. Like
Yep.
they will make your record deal that they're offering you
Yep.
look really fucking nice, but then they'll also write it in lawyer speak.
Yep.
And most people,
They don't get
in
a lawyer.
my experience,
Get a lawyer.
do not get a lawyer.
Yeah.
They just see record label, offer,
Yep.
and they go cha-ching.
Call it a day.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And
I was talking about that with my manager.
sketchy.
Yeah, he got a deal a while ago. I'm not gonna say the label or anything, but big contract. He was like, oh my gosh, it was a big label, all this stuff, and he said it was the biggest joke and nightmare that he has been. And it, I mean, it's all part of learning, but that's why you want to listen to people who have done things and been there, and like even things that you've told me before. I was like, oh my God, like I remember him saying something about this, and then like I just kind of got the chills thinking about it because if I didn't listen, then you could end up in a really bad situation, and you just sit there and go,
they can own your art.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that. I mean, I've worked with some people. Again, I won't say their name as much as I want to. But I worked with a guitarist for a really famous band, and
I remember this.
Yeah, I told you the story. And I mean, famous band.
Wow.
I mean, like, dude, like, you would think his life would be fucking butterflies, rainbows, and like just whipped cream everywhere and shit. And man, he comes in here and he was just the most fucking Eeyore.
Oh man,
like life sucks, and you're like, why does life suck? And he's
man.
like, these motherfuckers, like, because he's his band's with a major label,
Yeah.
major label. And he's like, these motherfuckers own everything I do.
Wow.
Like I want to do things, and they tell me no, like in terms of like the direction of his art.
Dang.
And so he literally came in here. He was doing work for my buddy Patrick, who's the other engineer here. Or my buddy Patrick was doing work for him. And so I was talking to him, and I was like, so is this, are you doing something solo? Or, and he's like, yeah, man, like I'm doing it solo right now. And then he just went on this tangent about like how they fucking own his shit, and he fucking hates it, and like how he hasn't had a day off in like 10 years because he goes on tour for 2 years, and then after 2 years of touring, he gets 6 months off, and in that 6 months off, quote unquote,
it's all studio.
he has to go in the studio and write a new album with the band.
Man.
And so he's, but I mean, this is the kind of guy who's literally going and playing stadiums with pyrotechnics everywhere, and he's bitching about the pyrotechnics, and I'm just like,
wow.
What?
Yeah.
But
it's eye-opening.
It's eye-opening to the fact that even people who have literally, you think, nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
Man, you look behind the closet and you're just like, damn, man, like, yeah, I mean,
A lot of baggage going on.
and you understand some of the things, like, and you understand where he's coming from too, man, because it's like, yeah, I would hate that.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the exact same reason why I really didn't go searching for labels, especially in this day and age where you can do everything independent.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like fame wasn't that important to me. It's more just like the distribution of my art. I wanted to get to as many people. And I was like, with the internet nowadays, there's no need to do a label to have that,
sure,
right?
yeah.
I mean, the thing about a label that I don't think people realize is that they're a bank.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to offer you a bunch of money, and that money is going to account for like your studio time, the mixing, like whatever they're gonna do to try to, like, they might commission you for, like, they might give you a development deal, and like there's gonna have a bunch of terms that you're trying to fulfill. They may ask for an album, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're just offering you money.
Yeah.
And if you take the money, that's fine, but you gotta know you're supposed to pay the money back, right?
It's
and
a loan.
so if it's a loan.
Yep.
And if you're fucking awesome, and obviously if a label's offering you something,
Yeah.
you're doing pretty fucking well.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got something that they think can take off.
Yeah.
So it is a gamble, right? So
Yeah.
like you could, but if, and this happens, right? Like just because they're offering you a label deal doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Because they're just using their best intuitive sense of the industry to think, yeah, this might work. But there's a lot of failures out there. There's a lot of A&R managers that fail at finding the right people, and you get like, them putting all this money into a project for this one artist, and this one artist flops.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then the label loses the money, but then guess what? If you sign the label deal,
You still owe it.
you're still you're still like, so like there's just it's a little predatory in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then like some of the most famous bands, like Guns N' Roses or Eazy-E and NWA and like all these ones, like Elvis. I mean, all these movies that you're seeing nowadays where they're kind of showing you kind of what was going on behind the scenes with their managers and stuff.
I'm sure they're not even showing the half of it.
Exactly,
too. Yeah.
dude. Exactly. I mean, if you thought that was bad, I
Yeah.
mean, imagine what else they're doing.
They got to so glamorize it for the film, so
Yeah.
people don't go, "Whoa, wait a minute," you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And they dumb stuff a lot of stuff down, and yeah. So
Yep. They'll just sit there and go, "Oh man, that guy was so mean." Meanwhile, he's
right.
got this guy in a chokehold. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, crazy.
It's bad, dude. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you just gotta be wary of stuff like that.
Yeah.
You gotta be wary of who you're working with,
Yep.
what you're signing on, and yeah,
Mhm.
moral of the story, kids, is if you get a label deal, do whatever you gotta do to find the money to get a lawyer to read it for you.
Yep.
Really,
definitely.
really worth
That even
it.
goes for my label. Read the
Yeah,
contract,
yeah,
get a lawyer.
Read it. You gotta read it because it's just
Yep.
they'll take advantage if they can. Because I mean, you know,
Yep.
I've just seen it so fucking much, dude.
Yeah,
I've seen it so much,
crazy.
and like no one. I don't care how fucking smart you think you are. You're not smart enough to read lawyer speak.
Yeah.
Okay, they're really good at it.
You got to go to school
They're
for that.
really
man.
fucking good at
Yep.
it. Yeah,
It's
even
crazy.
I got humbled with that. And I
Yep.
was like, I don't know what the fuck this means.
It's so
You
crazy.
know, like because I tried doing that. I got a label deal one time.
Yep.
I was like, I'm just gonna read this bitch and see if I can
Just figure it out. Yeah.
pick it out, you know. And then if it's like a new label, then yeah, you're gonna get some label deals that are so easy to read. Like,
Yeah.
if you're doing like a small label, read
Mhm.
read the contract first. It might not be that sophisticated where you can kind of
Mhm.
understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
But if it's like a big label or a decent sized label, like
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've gotten stuff where I'm just like, I've read this 30 times over
Yeah.
and over again.
Still
I do
have
not know
no
what the
clue.
fuck this means. Like I have a general idea,
crazy.
but I have no idea. And then
Yeah.
you like send it to a lawyer, and they're like, "This is what this means." You're like, "Holy shit, fuck no."
Yeah. You're like,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
way,
no,
dude.
no. You know.
It's scary.
So yeah, be wary,
Well,
children.
the good thing I feel like with EDM labels, especially
Mhm.
nowadays, especially if you're smaller, they just kind of, whatever contract they send you, they're just kind of like, hey, 30 to 50%, just whatever, streams, you're not signed to us,
Right.
it's just the song, big
Yeah, and
deal.
that's a
I
great
mean,
one. Yeah, like when you were just signing the song.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely kind of, I feel like, the direction that things are going in
That's
now.
like an EDM hip hop thing.
Yeah.
I don't see that with much bands.
No. Oh, no.
No. I
Well,
don't.
bands don't really do singles. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
they
Like,
do,
don't,
but
like, it's just not worth it.
exactly.
Yeah, it's just not.
Well, it's a
again, to what we
lot.
were talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a lot to bring in for just one song.
Yeah,
Yep.
because again, even if you're recording at home,
Yep.
like the fact that you're gonna mix if you got like a drum kit and a guitar and a bass and
Yep.
a vocalist, like just your standard band setup.
One condenser
The idea,
mic.
yeah, and whatever exactly. I have friends back in Idaho who they'd hit me up for advice and stuff like that, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're trying to do this all on our own, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to mix on their own."
Yeah.
And they would buy like if you go to like Sam Ash or like Guitar
Mhm.
Center or like your local music store, like you have some kits where it's like a microphone setup of like X amount of microphones for like
Mhm.
a drum kit specifically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so like they would do that, and it's like they're pretty. I mean, they're not the best microphones obviously,
Yeah.
but they're decent, and like you can get good enough track
yeah.
recording from it. But even they would do it, and they try to mix it in their house. And it's like as
Mhm.
soon as you get to the mixing stage where you're trying to mix a band
Oh, yeah.
with live recordings,
It's a lot. Yeah.
like live track audio, like good fucking luck.
Yeah.
You don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like
Yep.
I mean, if you were able to do that on your own with no guidance,
Yeah.
with no understanding of what equalization or compression or
Mhm.
reverberation or any of that stuff,
crazy.
and you got a fucking record that just fucking slaps,
Yeah.
you're probably a demigod.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know,
like,
right?
honestly, like I don't know how you like
Yep.
you were built for it, and you should stick with it. Like honestly, like
One saturator on everything.
yeah, because I've
yeah.
never met anyone who could do that
Yeah.
ever.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
even the people who like and a lot of these guys too. And this is a piece of advice for all you out there listening. Just because it's on YouTube and someone's explaining it on YouTube doesn't mean they know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yep.
I've
Yep.
seen a lot of shit on YouTube with a lot of retard. Can I say that?
Yeah. No, you're good.
Sorry, I have a potty mouth, people. If you
Yeah.
haven't learned this, and I'm sorry. So, but a lot of idiots that
Mhm.
are on YouTube that just spew a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you gotta be wary of who you're listening to on the if you're going on YouTube, because a lot of my friends, like this particular group I'm talking about, they were doing like they'd be like calling me, be like, yeah, man, we set up the drum kit and like we followed everything this guy did on YouTube, but
Yeah.
I'm just like, stop right there.
Yeah.
Like what
That's
do you
enough.
mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're following this guy on YouTube? Like
Yeah.
what did you do and why'd you do it?
Yeah.
And like their response was like, well, we did it because this guy on YouTube said it. And it's like, well, why did he do it?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, he didn't say. And I was like, well, then why the
Exactly,
fuck are you listening to him?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yep.
you gotta know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I feel like people, it's a great source. Like Romy and I talked about that in the last one. We're like, how, there's really no excuse anymore to not learn something, but you still have to try. Just because somebody said that it's this doesn't mean that it's the end all be all of, it might have worked for him, but in your situation, it didn't work. So don't do that.
Right.
And
that's a very excellent point too. Is like the music, both in the composition and production aspect as well as the engineering, and it's an art form, and because it's an art form, there's really no rules. Right. There's guidances. And I mean, like, you do have, like, I guess there are, like, fundamental rules, right? Like, if you're trying to get a really loud-sounding master, but you got a lot of sub-bass frequencies in the sides of the stereo field, you're never going to achieve what you're looking for, right? So, I mean, I guess that would be a rule. But for the most part, because it's an art form, like, there's no perfect formula every single time for the same. Like, if that were the case, I definitely would not have a job. Yeah. Because then you could just AI,
plug
you
and
could
play.
you could just develop an algorithm to make the perfect fucking mixing algorithm for every single song.
That's crazy.
It doesn't exist, right? And same with mastering. Even mastering, people are trying to do that with the algorithm masters. You spend $40 and it's an algorithm masters your song.
Yep. The online ones.
The online ones. Yep. Even that, I mean, I just had a client, so he's a new client, and he doesn't understand mastering. Yeah. And so he was like, well, I don't understand. And so he's like, talking to me and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't really understand why I can't just do the online thing. It's cheaper. Yeah. And I'm just like bewildered. First off, it's slightly insulting to me. Because I'm like, why are you calling me if you're that confident in it,
Exactly, yeah.
But I told him, I was like, listen, man, like, these are your options, right? And since you don't understand what mastering is, this is what I would recommend. Yeah. I told him, I was like, spend the money on the online one, and then just spend the money on me. Yeah. I'll cut you a little deal, so you don't have to spend like a full price on your first one. And I was like, and compare the two. Yeah. And if you come back to me telling me you think the algorithm one is better,
then I'm done.
Then fucking go for it. I'll give you the money back. Yeah. Like I told him, I'll give you the money back that you pay me. I'll give it back. Like if you really think it's better, right? Yeah. And like, even I knew that he wasn't dumb enough to lie to me and tell me that the fucking algorithm one was better, so that he could get his money back. I was like, because I was like, there's no way. Yeah. And he was right, and he came back. He's like, yeah, I didn't know. I'm like, yeah, no way. I was like, yeah, and then hear it. Yeah, and like you're spending $40. I'm not charging that much more. You know what I mean? Like for me, like I mean, some mastering engineers do, but I'm really not that expensive in the mastering realm. So like for this guy to, it was a good lesson for him. Yeah. And so, so back to the idea that you're going to have a set formula for everything. Yeah. With music, that is the wrong way. Yeah. To look at it, and don't ever get in that mindset, people. Yeah. Don't do it. Every song is going to be different. Every song is going to require different things. Yep. And because I used to fall in that trap. Yeah. And this is why I started apprenticing or becoming a mentor to people, is because I made, when I first started getting into this industry, and particularly with engineering and stuff, I thought like set formula, right? Like there's got to be a set formula for everything. Like there's got to be a set formula for the bass. Yep. A set formula for the vocals. Blah 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 blah. Yep. And
like, a little notepad with everything.
Yeah, I just keep doing stuff, and I'd just be like, damn, this sounds like shit. Yeah. Yep. This sounds like shit. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I found my own mentor. And my own mentor, like got me out of that brainwashed mindset that I was in. And I don't really know where the mindset came from. I just think maybe it was from school all my life, where it's like, they get told this,
here's the question.
Fucking theorem. It's always going to be this. Yep. And I just kind of translated that with engineering. Yep. even in my guitar playing, I would say I kind of did that too.
Yeah.
Before I got into like college, before I learned music theory, I just kind of like, I knew what sounded good on the guitar.
Yeah.
And so to me, it felt like a formula,
Uh-huh.
and maybe that's why too, is like, maybe my guitar playing with lack of theory kind of put me in this idea that like, oh my God, like there's a formula for everything,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
if I want to do this, do a pentatonic scale, right? If I want to achieve this, power chords. And so even with me though, like I finally got to the point where I found my mentor and he was showing me like, dude, you're thinking about this all wrong.
Yeah.
Like you gotta treat every single song, every single sound, right, with its own uniqueness.
Yeah.
And like if you don't do that, you're never gonna achieve what you want. And then as soon as that happened, man, it was like a light bulb.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and then all of a sudden I started getting the results that I was looking for in my music. And then like that really helped with inspiration too, right? Because like, I was getting really uninspired there for a little bit because it's like I wasn't getting what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck, am I cut out for this? Because like my songs were good. Like I was coming up with cool chord progressions. I knew it was good.
Yeah.
It just sounded like shit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just making sure if you're a novice person out there, like, and you're just starting off, do not, everything is, I always reference Pirates of the Caribbean. They're more like guidelines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the way to think about it. Like, there's no rules. It's more like guidelines, right? You'll learn some rules that you're always going to follow, but for the most part, it's going to be its own new voyage every single time. And that's what I love about mixing and mastering and stuff like that. Is it's always different,
Yeah.
It's always different. There's always...
It's never the same thing.
It's never the same thing. Yeah. Sometimes you're finding new tricks that you never thought about, or like, there's a new problem you've never had to endure before, and you're just like, fuck. At the time it's frustrating, but afterwards, after you figure out,
it's rewarding.
Like, it's rewarding. You're like, holy shit, man! Like, I couldn't.
Yep.
I had this master that I was just working on, and like, I was struggling with this, just the low end of the song. I was trying to get a tight low end bottom, and I think too is because it got mixed in a way where it was just really bottom heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they wanted. But then every time I sent them the master, it was like, oh, it just feels so bassy.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's how you mixed it. Like,
yep.
And so I was struggling to get that really tight bottom end. And it, I had to finesse a little bit. I had to do a little experimentation, but I ended up figuring it out. And
nice, yeah.
And at the end of it, I was like, I was really starting to resent this master.
Yeah. Screw this project.
Yeah. But now I'm glad that I went through it because
Yeah.
it made me that much better of an engineer.
Yeah.
And so
nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Sweet. Always learning.
Always,
that's what I learned. Always learning.
Always learning. That should be in life too, man.
Oh,
you should be learning every day, and if you're not, then get the fuck out of your house.
For sure. Yeah. Get outside, do stuff.
Yeah, do stuff.
So, going forward, what's what do you kind of got working on in the future? You got any solo stuff? Any?
Yeah, man. One day.
Yeah. Well, because you and I just did that one collab track.
Yeah, so we did that collab, which a lot of fun. I had a good time on that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, man. I have a bunch of solo stuff. Just
sitting waiting.
I got a couple that I just need to mix and get them mastered, and they're done. I got a few others that, I gotta finish. Like maybe the last quarter of a song or the last half of a song, and then they're done. Yeah. And then I do want to get them out there. I just have been so fucking busy lately, dude.
Yeah.
And so, right now, I don't know if I told you this since we haven't seen each other a little bit, but like with the holidays, like I was part of that Southwest fiasco.
Oh, were you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude. And so like I actually lost a little bit of time in my schedule recently, and I've been playing catch up because like my flight got delayed like days.
Dang.
And so ever since I've gotten back after the holidays, I mean it's fucking almost February and I'm still catching up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
And so once I'm caught up with some of this current projects I'm working on, I am going to dedicate some time to finishing these solo projects. So you can definitely see in the future. If you follow me on Instagram, people, it's at Nigel Alexander, and spelled NIGEL ALXANDER. I had to take the E out because someone stole it.
Yeah, I hate that, man.
Yeah, so it's Alexander without the E. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably see here in the next month or so some releases, some new material. Okay. And then my old project, It was called Sundiata.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a lot of those songs off of Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
But they're really fucking good. And I was thinking about this too. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, so I think I'm going to do some re-release under my name. Because the new project, the solo project that I want to do moving forward is just going to be my name.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a much better route for me anyways. And so some of these previous songs that were under the Sundiata name, Sundiata brand, I think I'm going to re-release under just my regular name.
It's perfect.
And put them out on Spotify. And then that kind of gives me like a little bit of a head start on release material as well, especially once I get these other ones done. So I think my scheduling will probably be I'll release a new one first, and then I'll re-release one, and then release a new one, re-release one, until I'm kind of caught up with the re-releases, because I got a handful that were
cool,
pretty dope. But so that's the future with solo stuff. And then right now in the studio, as I've talked about with you already, I got a lot of projects. And so we'll see how the rest of 2023 turns out. So far, it's been a fucking great start. I can say that.
It's good.
But yeah, I'm hoping it slows down a little bit so I can work on my own stuff. Yeah,
because I take a step back a little bit.
I do miss it. I see you releasing all these songs.
Yeah,
like, I want to get back to it, dude. I want to get back to it. So that's why this hip hop one that we were doing is kind of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like, it's kind of a break in between.
Yeah, it's still like a little bit of work, but like you got your tracks that you produced. You got a few of mine that I produced, and so it's been fun to get back into that kind of music.
Nice. Yeah.
The creative music process, because I've been producing a couple tracks for people, but most of my stuff lately has been engineering. Yeah. And so I just yearn to get back into my little dungeon of music making, and just go crazy, because like I said, I got a handful of stuff I want to do. So that's the future. And then who knows, one of my lifetime goals, and this is not going to happen anytime soon. We've talked about this. Yeah, eventually, once we'll see where life takes me. But I would love to have a gym. I would love to open a gym.
Oh, yeah.
And I really realized this after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because that's my other passion. Music's my number one passion always. But my other passion is health and fitness. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
And that's a commonality that you and I both share.
Yeah.
And so that's a goal, long-term goal of mine, is I want to have a gym. Some point in time I will have one. Yeah. And so I told myself 2023 I was going to start working on that too.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of good models out there now that will business models that work. And
and I have my own.
I could tell you a little bit about that since I worked in them for 5 years.
And I worked at a gym for a little bit too. Yeah. While I was kind of while my music career was kind of still growing, right? Like when I first started, I had to have another job.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And so I worked at a gym, and I got I got the guy who owned it. I mean, he was crazy.
Yeah.
But also really smart.
Yeah.
And so he gave me a lot of ideas about a gym, and then I just have my own vision of how I want to build.
Yeah.
It's the problem with my gym idea is that I need to find some venture capitalists. So if there's any out there, and you're trying to make a gym, you want equity in a gym,
hit them up right here.
Hit me up. I'm thinking big though. We're talking big, right? We're not talking small. So
go all in.
Yeah, dude. Because one thing I realized, man, is if you want to go do yoga, you have to go to a yoga studio.
Yeah.
And you're paying $120. And then if you want to go pump some weights, you're spending anywhere between $10 to $100, $120 if you go to a high-end gym. And then if you want to go do boxing, you gotta go to another gym.
Oh yeah.
And so if you're trying to do all three of these things,
good luck.
You gotta have three. Yeah, you gotta have three. And I know some people that.
I was gonna say I met people, man, over the years. I still know them, and I'm friends with them. They're spending over $1,000 a month, and I'm just
and that's
dude, you could do this for free, bro.
And that's my point, man. I was like, if these people are willing to spend $1,000 on all these memberships, what if I simplified it for them? And put it all in one roof?
It's a good idea.
It's not gonna be cheap. Yeah. If you're gonna have all that shit in one building, it's not gonna be cheap, but it's not gonna be $1,000 fucking dollars.
You're bringing the value.
Yeah, and again, I'm bringing the value, right?
Exactly.
So I have a good idea.
Moral of the story: bring the value, and they will come.
Bring the value, diversify, and moderation. I would say are the key takeaways.
Perfect.
If I have to offer any.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, cool, man. We're I think we've reached the hour mark here. So
fuck yeah.
Drop some good gems. You can follow Nigel anywhere, Instagram, mainly
Not
Instagram.
Anywhere, yeah. You can follow me on Instagram mostly. I'm not a huge social media guy, as we talked about earlier, but Instagram is my main avenue for sure. I do have a Twitter.
Okay.
I don't use it very much, except to like scroll through and read comments of crazy people.
Yeah, just randomness.
Yeah, if I'm ever having like a boring day,
yeah,
or if you're ever having a boring day, go on Twitter and just find people just arguing with each other. And like, if you think your life is bad,
you're
it
doing
ain't that
all
bad.
right.
Yeah, you gotta go on Twitter, and it'll definitely lighten up your mood a little bit. But yeah, so you can catch me on Twitter. Same username. At Nigel Alexander, no E on the Alexander, and then Instagram, no Facebook.
Drop your email in there in case anybody.
Oh yeah,
wants
if anyone,
that's
a great point.
Yeah,
good looking out.
For sure.
Yeah, if anyone needs production, mixing or mastering done, you can get at me at my personal email is Nigel Alexander Dean, with an E in the Alexander part this time.
I'll put all this in the description.
Yeah, we'll have them put it in the description.
Yeah.
But it's nigelalexanderdean@gmail.com.
Nice.
And then, or you can go to phasercontrolrecordingstudio.com, our website here, and there's a contact us portion, and you can also
read about
you get the whole, you can see pictures of this place and see what we have. But if you need to reach me, that's another way to do it, is go through the Phaser Control website, find the contact page, and just, request me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So.
All right, guys. Well, that is episode 4. Can't believe we're already on 4 episodes here. But all the description, all his links will be down below, along with all the social media for the podcast. You can check out the last episode right here. And with that, from Phaser Control Recording Studios, we hope you just enjoyed this, and we will see you later.
All right, have a good one, guys.